Hello, little sugar plum fairies. I'm going to show you how to do this super easy, really elegant painted wreath sourdough. The first thing that I would recommend is to do this on a not low hydration, but definitely not a high hydration sourdough. So I wouldn't go above 75% hydration. And if you are fairly new to sourdough baking and don't really understand baker's percentages, I'll give you an example. Basically, if your whole recipe is 1,000 grams of flour, a 75% hydration would be 750 grams of water. So it's in relation to the amount of flour. That's your baker's percentage. So follow your favorite sourdough recipe. Just make sure that it's not a really high hydration dough. And the second point that I want to make is shaping is really important as well. So low hydration dough and then a really tight shape. This is going to make sure that your sourdough gets a nice oven spring and it rises on the seam that you score. Okay, you've done all your work yesterday and now it's time to paint. Before you even preheat your oven, I would transfer my dough to the freezer for 1 to 2 hours just to make sure it's really firm, and this gives you a little bit of extra time if you are a slow painter, because as the dough sits on the counter and heats up, it's going to become looser. So we will kind of want to give ourselves a nice place to start. Okay, now here's the secret to painting with food coloring. I'm using americolor gel colors, and the one thing that you're going to need is the bright white. I think it's titanium dioxide. There's some kind of powder in here that gives it its white opacity. And just by mixing that white into every color that you're using gives your colors a little bit more vibrancy, and they're going to be really opaque and show through, as opposed to just painting with kind of like a clear gel. Does that make sense? Okay, this design is so easy. Anyone can do it. You don't need an art degree. You don't need painting experience. You just need the right paintbrush. So in your local craft store, you are going to go to the paintbrush section and get yourself a fairly nice, it doesn't have to be super expensive, but a nice round brush. I think this is like a size 6. And a round brush has a little bit of body, but it's kind of tapered toward the tip. So it will give you a teardrop effect when you press in and then lift up. And it's really easy. You may have to practice the motion a couple of times. Maybe just grab some paper and watercolors, or you can do this with your food coloring on paper. Now this ends up baking surprisingly well despite my not so perfect scoring, but that is something that's really important. You want to make sure that you get a really nice, clean, deep score that goes all the way around the bread, so you have a place for your bread to expand and it won't bust through the main design on top. I did a couple of these where I didn't score it deep enough and my design burst through the painting. So don't make that mistake. Go back and fix those parts where maybe your blade caught and it didn't cut deep enough.